The dismissal. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the Galactic Defense Council's grand amphitheater, her small human frame dwarfed by the massive curved walls that stretched upward into darkness. The space station Concordia Prime orbited the galactic core, its position chosen to demonstrate the unity of all member species. Today, that unity felt more like a wall between her and the beings she desperately needed to convince. Representatives from 47 different species filled the tiered seating around her. The Altarians sat in their gleaming environmental suits, their crystalline bodies catching and refracting the chamber's soft lighting. The massive Corathans occupied reinforced platforms, their rocky hides making them look like living boulders. The ethereal Veltari floated in containment fields, their energy forms shifting between colors that human eyes couldn't quite process. Elena had been preparing for this moment for 3 months, ever since Earth's deep space monitoring stations had detected the anomalies. The readings were subtle, patterns hidden in background radiation that most civilizations would dismiss as cosmic noise. But humans had learned to look for patterns where others saw chaos. It was what had helped them survive on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Admiral Zexthera of the Altarian Defense Fleet leaned forward in his seat, the light from his crystalline form pulsing with what Elena had learned to recognize as impatience. "Dr. Vasquez," his voice resonated through the translation matrix, "you have requested this emergency session to present evidence of a galactic threat. Please proceed, but be aware that this council has pressing matters to address regarding trade route security." Elena activated her holographic display, and the air above her head filled with data streams, star charts, and energy readings. Honored Delegate. For the past year, Earth's monitoring networks have detected unusual patterns in the void regions between spiral arms. These patterns match historical records we've discovered in ancient databases across 17 different dead worlds. She gestured, and the display shifted to show archaeological findings from long-dead civilizations. Every species we've studied was advanced, peaceful, and confident in their technology. They all fell to the same enemy, something they called by different names but described the same way: the Devourers, a force that consumes entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. Counselor Veltran, an ancient being whose people had achieved energy form millions of years ago, spoke without moving from his containment field. "Dr. Vasquez, these are legends, stories told by primitive civilizations to explain natural disasters. The universe is vast and dangerous, but there is no single force capable of threatening galactic civilization." Elena felt her frustration building. She had expected this reaction, but it still stung. "With respect, Counselor, we've found physical evidence, energy signatures that match across multiple dead systems, structural damage to planets that follows identical patterns. This isn't mythology. This is a recurring threat that returns every few thousand years." The Corathan delegate, whose name was unpronounceable to human vocal cords, spoke through his translation unit with a voice like grinding stone. "Even if such a threat existed, which we doubt, the combined fleets of the galactic community number in the millions. No force could threaten us." Elena switched her display to show tactical analyses that her team had prepared. "The evidence suggests they don't fight like any of us expect. They don't engage in fleet actions or traditional warfare. They corrupt systems from within, turn a species' own technology against them. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's too late." Admiral Zexthera's form brightened, a sign of growing agitation. "Dr. Vasquez, humanity has been part of this council for barely 5 years. Your species still fights wars with kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. Perhaps you should focus on understanding existing galactic technology before theorizing about ancient threats." The chamber filled with the various sounds that different species made to show agreement. Harmonic tones from the Veltari, clicking from the insectoid Zeph-Hi, and rumbling from the Corathons. Elena realized she was losing them, but she pressed on. "We may be new to galactic civilization, But humans have something that might be valuable here. We're good at seeing patterns, especially when those patterns involve survival threats. On Earth, the species that survived weren't always the strongest or most advanced. They were the ones that could recognize danger and adapt quickly. Counselor Veltran's energy form shifted to a cooler blue, indicating dismissal. Dr. Vasquez, your concern for galactic security is noted, but this council deals with facts, not speculation based on archaeological finds and pattern recognition. If such a threat existed, our sensor networks would have detected it long ago. Elena made one last attempt. What if they're already here? What if they've been moving through the void between galaxies for centuries, studying us, preparing? The energy signatures I've detected aren't random. They're getting stronger and more focused. Something is coming, and we need to prepare. Admiral Zex, Thara stood, his crystalline form now blazing with what Elena recognized as anger. Enough. This council will not be panicked by the fears of a species that has never faced a true galactic conflict. Dr. Vasquez, humanity's concerns are noted in the official record, but we will not divert resources from real security issues to chase shadows in deep space. The vote was swift and decisive. 44 species voted to dismiss Earth's warnings. Only 2 abstained, and 1 voted in support. Elena gathered her data and prepared to leave, but not before activating her personal communicator on a secure channel. Command, this is Vasquez. Package delivery failed. Activate Protocol 7. Back on Earth, General Harrison Blake received the coded message in his underground command center beneath the Colorado Rockies. The general was a weathered man in his 60s, with gray eyes that had seen too many battles and a mind that never stopped calculating odds. He had been expecting this outcome, but it still disappointed him. Sir, his aide, Colonel Sarah Martinez, approached with a tablet. Dr. Vasquez's transmission just came through. The council dismissed our warnings. Blake nodded grimly. As expected. They see us as primitive newcomers trying to create drama. They don't understand that sometimes the newcomer's perspective is exactly what you need. He turned to address the room full of technicians and analysts. Ladies and gentlemen, the galactic community has chosen to ignore our warnings. That means we're on our own for the next phase. The command center buzzed with activity as personnel began implementing plans that had been months in preparation. Colonel Martinez pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system. Sir, all deep space monitoring stations are online. The new sensor network extends out to 12 light-years in all directions. If anything approaches outsmart or system, we'll know about it weeks in advance. Blake studied the display, watching as status indicators showed green across hundreds of hidden installations. Good. What about the defensive platforms? Installation is complete on all major asteroids in the belt. The lunar batteries are online, and the orbital defense grid is fully operational. Everything is disguised to look like standard mining and communication equipment. The general allowed himself a small smile. While the galactic community relied on massive fleets and overwhelming firepower, humans had learned different lessons from their history. Sometimes the best defense was to make your enemy think there was no defense at all. And our special project? Colonel Martinez hesitated. The labyrinth system is ready, sir. All the AIs are online and running predictive scenarios. If the Devourers show up, we'll be ready for them in ways the galaxy has never seen. Blake turned back to the display showing the positions of various galactic fleets. Millions of ships, each more advanced than anything humanity could build, spread across thousands of star systems, all of them confident in their superiority, none of them prepared for an enemy that didn't fight by conventional rules. Colonel, send a message to all our deep space assets. Full stealth protocols are now in effect, and get me a secure channel to Admiral Chen on Luna Base. As the orders went out, Blake reflected on the irony of the situation. The galactic community saw humans as primitive because they still planned for the worst-case scenario. But maybe, just maybe, that primitive thinking would be what saved everyone. 3 months later, the first attacks began on the Outer Rim territories. By then, it was already too late for conventional responses. The Devourers had learned much during their long sleep, and they were ready to test themselves against the galaxy's defenders. But they had made one critical error in their planning. They had dismissed humanity just as thoroughly as the Galactic Council had, and that mistake would cost them everything. The trap springs. 6 months after the failed warning at the Galactic Council, the galaxy was burning. Admiral Zex Thara stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Radiant Spear, watching the tactical display with growing horror. The confident crystalline being who had dismissed human warnings now found himself commanding a desperate retreat from the Kepler sector. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, her voice tight with fear, "we've lost contact with the Fourth Fleet. Their last transmission showed energy weapons of unknown design cutting through our shields like they weren't there." Zex Thara's form dimmed as he processed the implications. In the past 3 months, 17 major star systems had gone dark. Not destroyed in the traditional sense, but emptied. Planets stripped of all life, stars dimmed to barely functioning remnants, entire civilizations vanishing as if they had never existed. The enemy the humans had warned about was real, and it was unlike anything the galactic community had ever faced. They didn't engage in ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they sent clouds of microscopic machines that consumed everything they touched, growing stronger with each world they devoured. Conventional weapons were useless against an enemy that could rebuild itself from cosmic dust. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Concordia Prime. It's Counselor Veltran." The ancient energy being's form appeared in the bridge's communication array, but where once it had been brilliant and composed, now it flickered with desperation. "Admiral Zex Thara, I trust your evacuation of the Altarian home systems is proceeding according to plan?" Zex Thara's light pulsed with bitter irony. "Plan? Counselor, what?" "We have no plan. Our weapons are ineffective, our shields meaningless. We're not evacuating. We're running, and we're losing ground every day." On the other end of the transmission, Veltran's energy form shifted to deeper shades of blue. "The same reports are coming in from all sectors. The Corathans have lost their entire mining fleet. The HFY colonies have been consumed. Even our most advanced worlds are falling faster than we can coordinate defenses." "What about the humans?" Zex Thara asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Their system has been silent since Dr. Vasquez's warning." "That's why I'm contacting you," Veltran replied. 3 days ago, we lost all communication with Earth. The entire Sol system has gone dark. We believe they've been consumed like the others." Zex Thara felt his confidence, already shattered, crumble further. If the humans were gone, then the only species that had recognized the threat was already dead. "Counselor, I need to ask, what are our options?" Before Veltran could respond, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. "Admiral," the sensor operator shouted, "massive energy signature emerging from hyperspace. It's the size of a moon." On the main screen, reality tore open as something vast and dark emerged from faster-than-light travel. But as the shape resolved, Zex Thara realized it wasn't one of the Devourer constructs. The hull was metallic gray, covered in weapon arrays and sensor domes. More importantly, it was sending out recognition signals in a frequency he hadn't heard in months. "This is Admiral Elena Santos of the United Earth Defense Force, commanding the battle station Prometheus. Admiral Zex Thara, are you in need of assistance?" The Altarian admiral stared at the massive structure that had just appeared. It was larger than any ship in the galactic fleet, but more importantly, it was human. "Admiral Santos, we were told your entire system had gone dark. We thought you had been consumed." Elena Santos's image appeared on the bridge, a tall, middle-aged human woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that held the weight of command. "Not consumed, Admiral, hidden. For the past 6 months, we've been preparing for this exact scenario. Now, I need you to listen carefully. We're going to save your fleet, but you need to follow our instructions exactly." "Your instructions?" Zex Thara's form brightened with a mixture of hope and confusion. "Admiral Santos, with respect, humanity has been part of galactic civilization for only 5 years. How could you possibly— Admiral, Santos interrupted. Right now, your most advanced shields are being eaten by machines the size of bacteria. Your weapons can't target something that rebuilds itself faster than you can destroy it. Do you want to argue about our credentials, or do you want to survive the next hour? Zexithera looked at his tactical display, where red indicators showed the Devourer swarm approaching fast. What do you need us to do? Move your entire fleet to these coordinates. Santos transmitted a set of navigation data. Stay in tight formation and do not, under any circumstances, fire your weapons until I give the signal. Trust me on this. As the Altarian fleet changed course, more human ships began emerging from what had seemed like empty space. Sleek destroyers, massive cruisers, and support vessels that looked nothing like the primitive craft the galactic community remembered. These ships moved with precision and purpose, taking up positions around the fleeing alien fleet. Admiral Santos, Zexithera called out, how many ships do you have? In this sector? About 300. Galaxy-wide? Well, let's just say we've been busy while everyone thought we were dead. The Devourer swarm approached like a living cloud, billions of microscopic machines working in perfect coordination. They had consumed the resources of dozens of worlds, and their collective intelligence had grown with each victory. But as they reached the coordinates Santos had specified, something unexpected happened. Space itself seemed to shift around the human fleet. Energy fields invisible to normal sensors suddenly blazed to life, creating a three-dimensional maze of force barriers and gravitational anomalies. The Devourer swarm, used to consuming everything in its path, found itself channeled and compressed into narrow corridors where their numbers became a disadvantage. Now, Santos commanded, and the human fleet opened fire. But these weren't the kinetic weapons and chemical explosives that Admiral Zexithera remembered. Beams of coherent energy swept through the trapped swarm, each shot precisely targeted to disrupt the molecular bonds that held the Devourer machines together. More importantly, the weapons seemed to learn and adapt with each shot, automatically adjusting their frequency to counter the enemy's attempts at defense. Within minutes, the vast cloud of Devourers had been reduced to scattered particles that quickly dissipated in the vacuum of space. The human fleet held position, weapons still charged, scanning for any remaining threats. "How?" Zexithera whispered, his crystalline form flickering with amazement. Santos's image smiled grimly. "Admiral, when Dr. Vasquez warned your council 6 months ago, we weren't just sharing archaeological data. We'd been tracking these things for years, studying their patterns, learning how they operate. While you were dismissing our warnings, we were building countermeasures. But your technology. We thought humans were primitive." "In some ways we are," Santos admitted. "We can't build ships that phase through dimensions or convert matter to energy. But we learned something the rest of the galaxy forgot. Sometimes primitive solutions work better than advanced ones. The Devourers adapted to fight your advanced shields and energy weapons. They weren't prepared for kinetic kill vehicles and coordinated trap tactics." Cologne. Martinez, who had been monitoring communications from Earth, approached Santos with an update. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from all sectors. The trap networks are online and engaging Devourer swarms across 47 systems. Enemy forces are being contained and eliminated according to plan." Santos nodded, then turned back to her communication with Zexithera. "Admiral, we're going to need your fleet's help for the final phase. Are you willing to follow human tactical coordination?" Zexithera's form brightened with new respect. "Admiral Santos, after what I've just witnessed, I'd follow human tactical coordination into the galactic core itself. What do you need?" Over the next 3 days, the galaxy watched in amazement as the human fleet executed the most complex military operation in galactic history. The Labyrinth Defense Network, built in secret over 6 months, revealed itself to be a galaxy-spanning trap system. Hidden bases, disguised sensor networks, and stealth fleets had been positioned throughout known space, all coordinated by artificial intelligences that could think and adapt faster than any biological mind. The Devourers, for all their advanced technology and collective intelligence, had made the same mistake as the Galactic Council. They had dismissed humanity as primitive and insignificant. That mistake cost them everything. When the last Devourer construct was destroyed in the Andromeda approach vector, the galaxy fell silent. Then, slowly, the surviving worlds began to broadcast messages of gratitude and amazement. Back on the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Santos received a priority transmission from Concordia Prime. Counselor Veltron's energy form appeared, but now it blazed with brilliant colors of respect and humility. "Admiral Santos," the ancient being said, "on behalf of the Galactic Defense Council, I must offer our deepest apologies. We should have listened to Dr. Vasquez's warnings." Santos shrugged, a very human gesture that somehow translated across species barriers. "Counselor, you reacted exactly as we expected. Advanced civilizations always assume that more primitive ones have nothing to teach them, but sometimes the newcomer's perspective is exactly what everyone needs." "How can we ever repay this debt?" Veltron asked. "Simple," Santos replied. "The next time a member species brings you a warning, listen to them. Even if they're primitive, especially if they're primitive, we see things differently because we've had to fight for survival every day since we crawled out of the caves. That perspective has value." As the Galactic Council prepared to formally acknowledge humanity's new status as a major power, Admiral Santos looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was safe, at least for now, and maybe, just maybe, the other species had learned something valuable about the dangers of dismissing those they considered beneath them. The humans had sprung their trap perfectly. Now they would help rebuild what had been lost and prepare for whatever threats might come next. After all, that's what primitives did best: survive, adapt, and protect those they called friends.